Welcome, everyone, to the next Jubilees installment, chapters 31 through 34. We're going to cover Tabernacles, the Great Eighth Day, and Yasharel. Yes, this is when Jacob's finally renamed. And yes, this is more of evidence for the keeping of the Moedim feasts in the Book of Jubilees with the patriarchs before Moses. Okay, we are going to start here in chapter 31. And before I start reading from the Book of Jubilees, I want to just say that we're at the beginning of the fall feast season, and in both books, Jacob is instructing his family to get ready for the feast, to get clean, put everything away you shouldn't have anymore, and instructions. And there is no input from ELOHIM into Jacob's mind. He's doing this on his own because he knows he's supposed to do this. But in the Genesis, you don't have an idea of what the time setting is, and you have some text that looks corrupted to me because the English does not make sense. So either we have a corrupted text or we have just bad translations, okay? But I say corruption because of what I'm going to tell you after I read this to you. So in Genesis chapter 35, it starts with, God said to Jacob, quote, "Arise, go up to Bethel and dwell there. Make an altar there to the God who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau," end quote. Now, all I can say is a quote. If this was one Elohim, then it would have said, God said to Jacob, "Arise, go to Bethel and dwell there, and make an altar there to me, who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau." See, Genesis reads as if God A is saying, go to this place and make an altar to the God B who appeared to you. And when you look at the Masoretic text, it, is not very, doesn't help make this any more clear, because we have Elohim saying, go make an altar to Shem. And I was like, boy, can we be more confusing? I encourage my students to go look at that verse and see for yourself what you find there. So Jacob is being told by Elohim to put away the foreign gods. And in the story of Genesis, down in verse 4, the people give their foreign gods to Jacob, the idols, and the rings that were in their ears, and Jacob hides them under a terebinth tree that was near Shechem. Now I'm going to read to you Jubilees. Verse 1, "And on the new month of the month, Jacob spoke to all the people of his house, saying, Purify yourselves and change your garments, and let us arise and go to Bethel, where I vowed a vow to him on the day when I fled from the face of Esau my brother, because he has been with me and brought me into this land in shalom, and put you away the strange gods that are among you. And they gave the strange gods and that which was in their ears, and which was on their necks, and the idols which Rachel stole from Laban her father, she gave wholly to Jacob, and he burnt and brake them to pieces and destroyed them, and hid them under an oak which is in the land of Shechem." So I just want to say here that in Jubilees, I wondered if it was something that was added later. There's no mention in the Book of Jubilees of Rachel doing this at all, yet it's here. And I'm like, okay, so in Jubilees itself there's no context for this, but in Jubilees he is destroying them according to Torah. I mean, he's breaking them and burning them, which is later on in the Pentateuch part of the Torah for what to do with idols. So Genesis has to say, it says that God told him to go and make this offering. Whereas in Jubilees, Jacob already knows what the feast is that's coming up. He already knows to do this. There is no conversation with Elohim. Now, I've got some comments up here on the screen, and the one thing I'd point out with is just realize that Genesis has no, it's not bringing in the fact that this is his payment of his vow that he made. Remember, he made a vow when he left to go find a wife, and this is his returning home and paying his vow. Okay, Jubilees, verse 3. And he went up on the new month of the 7th month to Bethel, and he built an altar at the place where he had slept. Now, this is Zechron Teruah. This is the Day of Trumpets. And Genesis in chapter 5 says, and as they journeyed, a terror from Elohim fell upon the cities that were around them, so that they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. So instead of disclosing the timing, we get fear because of their bad behavior. Remember, in the book of Genesis, it maintains that Jacob is afraid of everybody. So since the sons of Jacob have to be afraid of everybody, now God has to put a terror upon all these people so that they don't do anything to Jacob. That's missing from Jubilees. Okay. And all kinds of stuff is about to be missing from Genesis that's in the book of Jubilees. I'm going to continue on reading in Jubilees. Okay, so he goes up to Bethel where he had slept and builds an altar. And it says, and he set up a pillar there, and he sent word to his father Isaac to come to him to his sacrifice, and to his mother Rebekah. And Isaac said, let my son Jacob come, and let me see him before I die. So right here we can see that Jacob is including in the participation on the Day of Trumpets for his sacrifice, he wants both his mother and his father to be there. Verse 5, and Jacob said to his father Isaac and to his mother Rebekah, to the house of his father Abraham, and he took 2 of his sons with him, Levi and Yehudah. And he came to his father Isaac and to his mother Rebekah. So we're on the Day of Trumpets. He is going to go see Isaac and Rebekah, and he's taking 2 of his 12 sons with him. He did not take all 12, he took only 2. This is all missing in Genesis. Verse 6. And Rebekah came forth from the tower to the front of it to kiss Jacob and embrace him. For her spirit was revived when she heard, behold, Jacob your son is come. And she kissed him, and she saw his 2 sons, and she recognized them, and said to him, are these your sons, my son? And she embraced them, and kissed them, and blessed them, saying, in you shall the seed of Abraham become illustrious, and you shall prove a blessing on the earth. So she recognized Levi and Judah as his sons and blesses them immediately. Now, I believe this is showing that Rebekah spiritually could see who these kids were, because the blessing is that through them, Abraham's seed will become illustrious and prove a blessing. She's not seen them at all before. This is their first time that Rebekah and Isaac have seen Jacob since he left, and they certainly haven't seen any of his children. Verse 8, and Jacob went to Isaac his father, to the chamber where he lay, and his 2 sons were with him. And he took the hand of his father, and stooped down, he kissed him, and Isaac clung to the neck of Jacob his son, and went upon his neck. Verse 9, and the darkness left the eyes of Isaac, and he saw the 2 sons of Jacob, Levi and Yehudah. And he said, are these your sons, my son? For they are like you. Now that's an interesting comment, isn't it? Notice in Jubilees that Rebekah recognized the sons, and Isaac is seeing and asking and thinks they are like him. Verse 10, and he said to him that they were truly his sons, and you have truly seen that they are truly my sons. Verse 11, and they came near to him, and he turned and kissed them and embraced them both together. And the spirit of prophecy came down into his mouth, and he took Levi by the right hand and Yehudah by the left. Does this sound familiar? You see, we're in the book of Jubilees, and the blessing goes, this whole section of blessing goes to Judah and Levi. And This is all gone from Genesis, and Genesis has the blessings and special hand-holding going on with Ephraim and Manasseh. So everything I'm reading to you right now is not in Genesis. And the Ruach came down into his mouth, and he said to Levi's first. And he turned to Levi first, and began to bless him first, and said to him, May the Almighty of all, the very Yahuwah of all the ages, bless you and your children throughout all the ages. And may Yahuwah give to you and to your seed greatness and great splendor, and cause you and your seed from among all flesh to approach him, to serve in his sanctuary, as the Malachim of the presence, and as the Kodesh ones. Even as they shall the seed of your sons be for splendor and greatness and Kodeshness, and may he make them great unto all the ages. Now this is really important. You know, when you read First Enoch, there are angels of the presence and angels that are serving in the visions and the things that Enoch actually was taken to see. And the blessing right here that is upon Levi is that he's going to be serving with those angels in the presence of Yahuwah for ages to come. Verse 15. And they shall be judges and princes and chiefs of all the seed of the sons of Jacob. Let me say that again. And they shall be judges and princes and chiefs of all the seed of the sons of Jacob. That's everybody. All the seeds of Jacob. They shall speak the word of Yahuwah in righteousness, and they shall judge all his judgments in righteousness. And they shall declare my ways to Jacob and my paths to Yasharel. Now, I want you to see something. And they shall declare my ways to Jacob and my paths to Yasharel. Within Jubilees, Jacob has really not been renamed to Yasharel yet. Either this was put in after the fact that this was written after the events occurred. Because Jacob's not even been renamed yet. Not in the Book of Jubilees. So, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, Jacob and Yasharel are not the same thing. And I'll tell you what I think it is by the end of this video. But this is a quote. Okay? Or, as some do theorize, we are misled as to what and who Yasharel actually are. Okay? I just want you to make note of this and exactly what it says. Remember, it's a quote. It's in a time sequence. And Jacob is still Jacob. Next. The blessing of Yahuwah shall be given in their mouths to bless all the seed of the beloved. Your mother has called your name Levi, and justly she has called your name. Now, I don't see this in the text, this part about your mother has called your name Levi. And I think that is interesting. You know, because I don't see it in the text, and I don't know what to think of that. Other than Jacob overheard from another room his wife saying, oh, Levi and Judah, and this is what it's referring to. But this is not in the text why it says this. And you shall be joined to Yahuwah, and be the companion of all the sons of Jacob. Let his table be yours, and do you and your sons eat thereof, and may your table be full unto all generations, and your food fail not unto all the ages. And let all who hate you fall down before you, and let all your adversaries be rooted out and perish. And blessed be he that blesses you, and cursed be every nation that curses you. Now, I put verse 17 at the beginning in yellow. And let all who hate you fall down before you. And if you study with us, you'll know that Yahusha is in the tribe of Levi through his mother, Mary. And remember how the soldiers fell down before him when they came to get him in the Garden of Gethsemane? I just thought that was interesting. They would have been ones hating him. See, it didn't say everybody's going to fall down at your feet. It says all those who hate you fall down before you. Okay. Then comes the blessing to Judah. And remember, all this is missing from Genesis, the Masoretic text. 18. And to Yehudah he said, May Yahuwah give you strength and power to tread down all that hate you. A prince shall you be, you and one of your sons over the sons of Jacob. May your name and the name of your sons go forth and traverse every land and region. Then shall the Gentiles fear before your face, and all the nations shall quake, and all the peoples shall quake. May your name and the name of your sons go forth and traverse every land and region. Then shall the Gentiles fear before your face, and all nations shall quake. I just read that, sorry. In you shall the help of Jacob be, and in you be found the salvation of Yasharel. And I'll pause here. Yahusha is both Levi and Judah, and it fulfills both of these, both declaring the true way, and is a salvation of Yasharel. He said himself, he came for the lost sheep of Yasharel, the salvation of Yasharel. I came not but for the lost sheep of the house of Yasharel. And you is the help of Jacob. Ponder that and tell me what you think in the comments. Have you ever read this before? Do you find this interesting? Verse 20. And when you sit on the throne of honor of your righteousness, there shall be great shalom for all the seed of the sons of the beloved. Blessed be he that blesses you, and all that hate you, and afflict you, and curse you, shall be rooted out and destroyed from the earth, and be accursed. Verse 21. And he turned, and turning, he kissed him again, and embraced him, and rejoiced greatly. For he had seen the sons of Jacob, his son in very truth, and he went forth from between his feet, and fell down, and bowed down to him. And he blessed them, and rested there with Isaac his father that night, and they ate and drank with joy. And he made the two sons of Jacob sleep, the one on his right hand, and the other on his left hand, and it was counted unto him for righteousness. Verse 24. And Jacob told his father everything during the night, how Yahuwah had shown him great mercy, and how he had prospered him in all his ways, and protected him from all evil. And Isaac blessed Yahuwah, the Almighty of his father Abraham, who had not withdrawn his mercy and his righteousness from the sons of his servant Isaac. Okay. So that ended the blessing of both Levi and Judah. The next section starts on month 7, day 2. And in the morning, Jacob told his father Isaac the vow which he had vowed to Yahuwah, and the vision which he had seen, and that he built an altar, and that everything was ready for the sacrifice to be made before Yahuwah as he had vowed, and that he had come to set him on an ass. Now notice Jacob is still Jacob. He is ready to pay his vow to Yahuwah, and he's returned home safely. Okay. This is part of what would be known as the 10 days of awe. You know, I have videos on Zechron Torah, which is very good, and on atonement, and that will help explain lots of the feast meaning. Okay, verse 27. And Isaac said to Jacob his son, I am not able to go with you, for I am old, and I am not able to bear the way, my son, in shalom. For I am 165 years this day. I am no longer able to journey. Set your mother on an ass, and let her go with you. Now, if you'll remember, Yahusha has 2 animals when he goes into Jerusalem, to the recognition of the people of who he is, and has a mother and a son animal, a female and her son. And here is the mother being set upon an ass. I mean, it's really interesting to me. And I know, my son, that you can come on my account. And may this day be blessed on which you have seen me alive, and I have also seen you, my son. Verse 29. May you prosper and fulfill the vow which you have vowed, and put not off your vow, For you shall be called to account as touching the vow. Now therefore make haste to perform it, and may he be pleased who has made all things, to whom you have vowed this vow. Verse 30. And he said to Rebekah, Go with Jacob your son. And Rebekah went with Jacob her son, and Deborah with her, and they came to Bethel. Now, I want you to remember this name, Deborah. Deborah is leaving with her, and Deborah's going to come into play when we get to the Great Eighth Day. And in the Great Eighth Day video that I did. Verse 31. And Jacob remembered the prayer with which his father had blessed him and his two sons, Levi and Yehudah. And he rejoiced, and he blessed Yahuwah, El Shaddai, of his fathers, Abraham and Isaac. And he said, Now I know I have an eternal hope, and my sons also before the Shaddai of all. And thus it is ordained concerning the two. And they recorded it as an eternal testimony unto them on the heavenly tablets, how Isaac had blessed them. See, it was done under the inspiration of the Ruach. So remember what he's rejoicing for. His eternal hope and salvation is going to come through Levi and Judah. This is missing from Genesis. Okay, Jubilees chapter 32. Again, all this is missing. And he abode that night at Bethel, and Levi dreamed that he had been ordained and made him the priest of the Most High Yahuwah, him and his sons forever, and he awoke from his sleep and blessed Yahuwah. And Jacob rose early in the morning on the 14th of this month, and he gave a tithe of all that had come with him, both of men and cattle, both of gold, and every vessel and garment. Yes, he gave tithes of all. So this is missing from Genesis. It tells a different story that Levi is not selected for the priesthood until they set themselves apart during the golden calf. That was not when Levi became a priest. In the Book of Jubilees, it's happening now at Tabernacles. And he was blessed, he had just been blessed by Isaac. So I want to mention that in our community, where you find the PDF file for this, I also have a really clear article on tithing and offerings that it's one of the best articles I've seen that simplifies what you see in the Pentateuch. And I'll, if I can remember, or if you ask me in the comments, if I forget to put it into the description of this video, I have a link that's really excellent. Verse 3. And in those days Rachel became pregnant with her son Benjamin, and Jacob counted his sons from him upwards, and Levi fell to the portion of Yahuwah. Now this is really off to me, because he does not know the sex of the new baby yet. Levi was already chosen for the priesthood for a different reason in the text. So I think it's a possible corruption entered to support the every tenth belongs to Yahuwah stuff that's in the Pentateuch. That's just a hypothesis. I mean, even the scribes and publishers of Jubilees can have a bias, and this just seems weird to me. But we'll run with it for now. And his father clothed him in the garments of the priesthood. I mean, there was already garments of a priesthood. And filled his hands. Now we get to the Day of Tabernacles. So that's happening during the days of awe. And on the 15th of this month, he brought to the altar 14 oxen from amongst the cattle, 28 rams, 49 sheep, and 7 lambs, and 21 kinds of goats as a burnt offering on the altar of sacrifice, well-pleasing, a sweet savor before Yahuwah. Now this is on the Day of Tabernacles. He already gave an offering. If you come backwards to verse 2, he's giving an offering here, a tithe, that he vowed in verse 2. Okay, now in verse 4, on the Day of Tabernacles, is an offering That's why I said you want to read the article and realize what Jacob vowed to Yahuwah if he would bring him home safely. Verse 5. This was an offering in consequence of the vow he had vowed that he would give a tenth with their fruit offerings and their drink offerings, and when the fire consumed it, he burnt incense over the fire for a thank offering, 2 oxen and 4 ram and 4 sheep and 4 he goats and two of the sheep a year old and 2 kids of a goat, and thus he did daily for 7 days. Here's the daily offering. And he and all his sons and his men were eating this with joy during 7 days, and blessing and thanking Yahuwah, who had delivered him out of his tribulation and had given him his vow. Okay. Now, again, all this is missing from Genesis. Now, I think it was interesting when I got to this that he's celebrating being delivered out of all of his tribulation. Hint, hint for tabernacles. and the fact that he had given him his vow. This is a place where Jacob is saying that it wasn't his idea to do the tithing, that Yahuwah gave him that vow and put it in his heart. And I think that's just really interesting, because Abraham had already established tabernacles in his day, and now Jacob is celebrating it, layering it over it with more meaning. Verse 8, and he tithed all the clean animals and made a burnt sacrifice, but the unclean animals he gave not to Levi his son, and he gave him all the souls of men. And I put a souls of men question mark. I really wish I had the paleo source text here. I guess he's giving him men to be servants. That's all I can think of. And Levi discharged the priestly office at Bethel before Jacob his father in preference to his 10 brothers, and he was a priest there. And Jacob gave his vow, and he tithed again, the tithe to Yahuwah, and sanctified it, and it became Kodesh unto him. And I just had realized how much of Leviticus is already established here. I mean, it's read and compare this to the book of Leviticus. Levi went to Egypt already, knowing these feasts and all the tithes and offerings. Verse 10. And for this reason it is ordained on the heavenly tablets as Torah for the tithing again, the tithe to eat before Yahuwah from year to year in the place where it is chosen that his name should dwell, and to his Torah there is no limit of days forever, to celebrate being returned to Father in shalom and safely coming home. Verse 11, this ordinance is written that it may be fulfilled year to year in eating the Sukkot tithe before Yahuwah in the place where it has been chosen, and nothing shall remain over from it from this year to the year following. Verse 12, and in its year shall the seed be eaten till the days of the gathering of the seed of the year, and the wine till the days of the wine, and the oil till the days of its season. And all that is left thereof becomes old. Let it be regarded as polluted, let it be burnt with fire, for it is unclean. And thus let them eat it together in the sanctuary, and let them not suffer to become old. Boy, let them not suffer to become old. Don't eat old food. Verse 15. And all the tithes of the oxen and sheep shall be Kodesh unto Yahuwah, and shall belong to his priests, which they shall eat before him from year to year, for thus it is ordained and engraved regarding the tithe on the heavenly tablets. None of that was in Genesis. Now we get to the next thing in Genesis. Okay? In fact, see, all this is missing from Genesis. Let's go find where Genesis left off, because I've been doing all this blessings and all this stuff. Okay. So Genesis started with Jacob is going to Bethel, and there he built an altar, and then nothing in Genesis, okay? But it does say, next, God appeared to Jacob again when he came from Padaram. Genesis says, listen to this, and blessed him, And Elohim said to him, your name is Jacob. No longer shall your name be called Jacob, but Israel shall be your name. So he called his name Israel. Now notice, this is the second time that Genesis has his name changed. The second time. It's already been changed, according to Genesis. You know, I'm of the opinion that the entire story of Genesis about Esau meeting and struggling with an angel is possibly inserted. Because this does, here in Genesis, in this chapter, his name being changed lines up perfectly with the Book of Jubilees in the chronological order. Because this is where Jacob gets his name changed, on the great 8th day. Verse 16 in Jubilees, and on the following night, on the 22nd day of this month, Jacob resolved to build that place and to surround the court with a wall and to sanctify it and make it Kodesh forever for himself and his children after him. Verse 17, and Yahuwah appeared to him by night and blessed him and said, your name shall not be called Jacob, but Yasharel shall your name be called. And he said to him again, I am Yahuwah who created the heaven and the earth, and I will increase you and multiply you exceedingly, and kings shall come from you, and they shall judge everywhere, wherever the foot of the sons of men have trodden. And I'm going to stop here. I'm going to go back up the page just a second. So, Genesis absolutely does not have the great 8th day context. It's missing. Okay, other than Genesis does record that on this day there's a pouring out of water and blood in the temple. You know, this is the day that Yahusha goes there and says, ask me for living water. Okay, so now that Jacob has paid his vow, returned home safely, honored his parents, his family is all cleaned up, now his name is changed. Now there are two witnesses side by side that this is where his name was changed. And then I asked myself, so who did he actually see? Because Yahusha says, no one's seen my father. But this says, and Yahuwah appeared to him by night. Come discuss with us why we think and what we think the text is saying. Okay, I'm going to continue on now. Because in Genesis, there is a blessing that is spoken here to Jacob. And Jacob, after he receives his blessing in Genesis, sets up a pillar. Then he sets up a pillar and a stone, and he pours out a drink offering on it. And Jacob called the name of that place where Elohim had appeared to him, Bethel. Okay, that's Genesis. Jubilees has this. He says, I'm Yahuwah that created the heaven and the earth, and I will increase you and multiply you exceedingly, and kings shall come forth from you. They shall judge everywhere, wherever the foot of the sons of men have trodden. That's not in Genesis. This you're going to judge everywhere. 19, and I will give to your seed all the earth which is under heaven, and they shall judge all the nations according to their desires. And after that they shall get possession of the whole earth and inherit it forever. 20, and he finished speaking with him, and he went up from him. Jacob looked till he had ascended into heaven. So his name is changed, is a part of the promise of the 8th day. And renewing of the covenant and the end times promise found in the prophets, that the righteous will judge the sinners and inherit the earth. Jacob is looking at Yahuwah ascending into heaven, and the apostles and the disciples saw Yahusha ascending up into heaven. Now, I highlighted here they're going to judge according to their desires. I wondered if this was inserted, or I wish I knew what the words were underneath in the source text, because just reading this in English, I would think this could be you would think that Jacob's seed, Levi, who is going to be ruling, is supposed to be totally holy and set apart. And why would they rule nations according to their desires instead of to the Torah, which they've been instructed? Not per any Torah, not per any standards of righteousness. They are his holy representatives, his chosen nation to be holy. And I just thought, this English here just bothers me. Let me put it that way. What do you think of it? Verse 21. And he saw in a vision of the night. See, this was not a vision. Yahuwah appeared to him. But now he's seeing a vision in the night. And behold, a Malach descended from heaven with 7 tablets in his hand. And he gave them to Jacob, and he read them, and knew all that was written therein, which would befall him and his sons throughout all the ages. So there are 7 tablets that Jacob reads, and he knows the future. Verse 21. And he showed them all that was written on the tablets, and said to him, do not build this place, and do not make it an eternal sanctuary, and do not dwell here, for this is not the place. Go to the house of Abraham your father, and dwell with Isaac your father until the day of the death of your father. For in Egypt you shall die in Shalom, and in this land you shall be buried with honor in the sepulchre of your fathers and Abraham and Isaac. Now realize that, let's just assume that this is true. Jacob's going to know what's happening. See, logic, I am very logical, and Jacob would know, if he's really understanding all the future, what's going to happen with Joseph. Would he not? I don't know. It's just a question. Verse 24. Fear not, for you have seen and read it, and thus it shall be. And do you write down everything you have seen and read? And Jacob said, Yahuwah, how can I remember all that I have read and seen? And he said to him, I will bring all things to your remembrance. And he went up from him, and he awoke from his sleep, and he remembered everything which he had read and seen, and he wrote down all the words which he had read and seen. Now, where's that? What book is that in? That would be all the future that he saw about his seed line. The I will bring all things into your remembrance. This is similar language to the New Testament promise from Yahushua of the Ruach that brings all things, he said, quote unquote, into remembrance. That's John 14:26. So I thought that the Ruach that we receive is activated right here with Jacob, because he's going to remember everything that he was shown and write it all down. And I really wish, where's that book? Verse 27, and he celebrated there yet another day, and he sacrificed thereon according to all that he sacrificed on the former days, and he called its name Addition, for this day was added, and the former days he called the feast. So there's a 7-day feast, and now there's an additional day. He established the great 8th day. And thus it was manifested that it should be, and it is written on the heavenly tablets, wherefore it is revealed to him that he should celebrate it, and added it to the 7 days of the feast. And its name was called Addition, because that it was recorded amongst the days of the feast days according to the days of the year. Verse 30. And in the night, on the 23rd of this month, Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and they buried her beneath the city under the oak of the river, and he called the name of that place the river of Deborah, and the oak of the mourning of Deborah. Now, Deborah's death is recorded in verse 8 of Genesis. Okay? And Genesis has told this completely out of order. This verse, I moved this verse here for you to see that both books do talk about the death of Deborah, but this is out of order. When you would compare the two books here. But if you study chapter 35 of Genesis, you'll see they have shifted the order of events around, because they have the Dinah story not in the same order as well. I mean, when you try to reconcile these two books together, things get, you see how stories are shifted around. Be sure you don't miss the Great Eighth Day video because there's a lot of significance right here. Verse 31. And Rebekah went and returned to her house to his father Isaac, and Jacob sent her by her rams and sheep and he-goats that she should prepare a meal for his father such as he desired. And he went after his mother till he came to the land of Cabratan, and he dwelt there. Okay. Now we have the death of Rachel. Verse 33. And Rachel bare a son in the night, and called his name Son of My Sorrow, for she suffered in giving him birth. But his father called his name Benjamin, and on the 11th of the 8th month, in the first of the 6th week of this Jubilee. The two books line up here again just fine. Remember, this as Genesis has Jacob blessing all 12 sons, and Jubilees does not. Verse 34. And Rachel died there, and she was buried in the land of Ephrathah, the same as Bethlehem, and Jacob built a pillar on the grave of Rachel on the road above her grave. If you are watching this video and you're able to find on a map where the land of Cabratan is, I would be really interested in that. I can't find it on a map. Just want to put this into the video. Okay, so Rachel dies and is buried. Then Jubilees chapter 33. We have Reuben's sin. And I want you to notice something right off the bat. Okay, I'm comparing equivalent lines in Genesis and Jubilees. We know that in the text of Jubilees now, Jacob has been renamed, and yet Jubilees chapter 33 starts off with, and Jacob went and dwelt in the south of Magdalareth. Genesis says, while Israel lived in that land. Now, so the two texts, it seems that Jubilees must not have gotten the message that for some reason stop calling Jacob Jacob and call him Israel. Jubilees continues to call him Jacob. Only Genesis is switching the name, the appellation. You know, Tom, Dick, or Harry, what do I call you? And in Yasharel, in the name Yasharel, it's a designation for the upright in El. That's what it means. The children of Elohim who are to rule over nations. Was Jacob now designated as one in his seed who would now rule over nations to replace the fallen watchers or the principalities and powers, possibly? I mean, realize there's been a rebellion in the spiritual world, and that there are watchers and powers that are put over the earth to rule it, and there's a war going on, and Jacob has, had the blessing over Levi and Judah now, who are going to rule over all the children of Jacob, remember, and over the earth. So I was just wondering, is that possibly what Yasharel means? This is a theory. Remember, there's some watchers who are still good. Remember, it's the watchers who basically through Daniel told Nebuchadnezzar, if you keep this up, your pride, this is what's going to happen to you. And when Nebuchadnezzar said, I created this kingdom, it was the watchers who decreed what was the punishment going to be. So somebody was ruling over Babylon from a watcher standpoint, and their decree got put into effect. Just want to point that out. Okay, Jubilees continues. And he went to his father Isaac, he and Leah, his wife, and on the new month, the 10th month. And Reuben saw Bilhah, Rachel's maid, the concubine of his father, bathing in the water in a secret place, and he loved her. And he hid himself at night, and he entered the house of Bilhah at night, and he found her sleeping alone on a bed in her house. And he lay with her, and she awoke, and saw, and behold, Reuben was lying with her in the bed, and she uncovered the border of her covering, and seized him, and cried out. She cried out, and discovered it was Reuben. Okay, so she's startled, and she cries out. And she was ashamed because of him, and released her hand from him, and he fled. And she lamented because of this thing exceedingly, and did not tell it to anyone. And when Jacob returned and sought her, she said to him, I am not clean for you, for I have been defiled as regards you. For Reuben has defiled me, and has lain with me in the night, and I was asleep, and I did not discover until he uncovered my skirt and slept with me. And Jacob was exceedingly wroth with Reuben, because he had lain with Bilhah, because he had uncovered his father's skirt. And, verse 9, and Jacob did not approach her again, because Reuben had defiled her. Get that. I mean, we've got, Torah in the Pentateuch that talks about don't uncover uncover the skirts. A couple chapters full of it. And Genesis doesn't have this story. And I'm saying, maybe to avoid a discussion of the consequence of what is happening. You see, the consequence to Jacob is, in Jubilees, he's never going to sleep with Bilhah again. He lost his concubine. She's now defiled. He doesn't put her to death or anything. It's not her fault. But he's not going to be able to sleep with her again. Think about Noah and his nakedness. And remember, Noah had no more children, did he? He did not. And at a time in which you'd think he'd be fathering all kinds of children for a long while. He lived a long time. But no, he did not have any more children, and something happened to his wife. Okay. Now, Jubilees continues, and as for any man who uncovers his father's skirt, his deed is wicked exceedingly, for he is an abominable before Yahuwah. For this reason it is written and ordained on the heavenly tablets that a man should not lie with his father's wife, nor should he uncover his father's skirt, for this is unclean. They shall surely die together, the man who lies with his father's wife, and the woman also, for they have wrought uncleanness on the earth. And there shall be nothing unclean before Yahuwah our Almighty in the nation which he has chosen for himself as a possession. Now just ponder the Torah in here, and how this does not come across nearly this strong in the traditional canon. It does not. It certainly supports the end of Revelation and what shall not enter into the New Jerusalem. But if you compare the consequences here, this doesn't even make it into the Pentateuch. And the woman also. Well, the woman here, Bilhah, is not put to death in Jubilees. Okay. We must use our brains when we're looking at texts like this. And none of this is in Genesis. Let me continue with verse 12. And again it is written a second time, Cursed be he who lies with the wife of his father, for he has uncovered his father's shame. And all the Kodesh ones of Yahuwah said, So be it, so be it. Okay. Cursing him is different than putting him to death. Now, it is written, past tense, spoken to Moses, in what book? Because it says it's written a second time. And I'm just like, I question things. I wonder where it is. The first Torah referred to in Jubilees is in prior chapters. Remember, long way back in our chapters, in the discussion with Moses, it referred to something being the first Torah. Might that have been the Torah for the watchers? The children of Elohim? It's just a thought. Just a thought. They sent watchers. Read Enoch. Watchers came down to earth to teach men things. They were sent here for good purposes. Some of them went astray. Some of them abducted the daughters of Adam, but not all. Might they have gotten some Torah before they came here? Okay, verse 13. And do you, Moshe, command the children of Yasharel that they observe this word, for it entails a punishment of death, and it is unclean, and there is no atonement forever to atone for the man who has committed this, but he is to be put to death and slain and stoned with stones and rooted out of the midst of the people of Yahuwah our Almighty. I thought to myself, maybe Genesis is silent on this, not to have a second witness for the consequences? I mean, here's this stuff in Jubilees. It's not Genesis, and it's fits into the context of Jubilees to some extent to have an extremely high standard. Verse 14. For to no man who does so in Yasharel is it permitted to remain alive a single day on the earth, for he is abominable and unclean. Now, notice this. Now in Jubilees, it uses the word Israel, Yasharel. What if it is reinforcing the understanding that Jacob's seed is to become holy and walk as those who are already in the heavens, walking on the earth, who are held to the utmost highest standards? There's not even a land of Israel yet. Not even in the days of Moses is there one yet. Think about that. So, okay. Okay, I want you to notice, and here in verse 13, that it says the man is to be put to death and slain. It doesn't say the woman. Notice that. But down here in verse 15, in this section, we're going to hit a contradiction to it. Verse 15, and let them not say, to Reuben was granted life and forgiveness after he had lain with his father's concubine, and to her also, though she had a husband, and her husband Jacob, his father, was still alive. For until that time there had not been revealed the ordinance and judgment and Torah in its completeness for all. But in your days, this means Moses, it has been revealed as a Torah of season of days, an everlasting Torah for everlasting generations. And for this Torah there is no consummation of days and no atonement for it, but they must be rooted out in the midst of the nation. On the day wherein they committed it, they shall slay them. And do you, Moses, write it down for Yasharel, that they must observe it, and do according to these words, and not commit a sin unto death. See, for Yahuwah, our Almighty, is a judge, who represents not persons and accepts not gifts, and tell them these words of the covenant, that they may hear and observe, and be on their guard with respect to them, and not to be destroyed and rooted out of the land for an uncleanness and an abomination and a contamination and a pollution, are all they who committed on the earth before our sovereign ruler. Now, there is no second witness to this. The only witnesses that I can find for this section, Leviticus 18 has the similar sins, but the only judgment it talks about is being cut off from the people. Leviticus 20 has some of the same Torah and does have similar wording, but it says the woman is to be put to death. And Jubilees 13 up here says only the man is to be put to death. So, tell me what you think you make of all this. And why does verse 17 say they are slayed, yet above it's verse 13, the perpetrator only? Bela was deceived, So, I'm comparing the text and showing you what is and giving you, sharing with you my insights. Tell me in the comments what you think, or come to the discussion on Monday night. Verse 20. And there is no greater sin than the fornication which they commit on earth. Now, I would think that whatever happened to Dinah was pretty big, correct? And Dinah is a virgin girl who's being gang raped and who knows what. And this is a son going into lie with his concubine. And I just, anyway, I question why this would be no greater sin. For Yasharel is a Kodesh nation under Yahuwah, sovereign ruler, and a nation of inheritance, and a priestly and royal nation for his own possession, and there shall be no such uncleanness appear in the midst of the Kodesh nation. Now, at least this section right here, the language is clear, straightforward, and such holiness just does not flow through into modern times and sermons and such, does it? And this is all missing from Genesis. So all I can say is, Sometimes Jubilees disagrees with itself. I think it looks like sometimes things have been inserted that is totally illogical, like that sentence we found last video. But overall, the standards are high, and you don't get the same reading in Genesis. Okay, now we have a recounting of the 12 sons. Verse 21, and in the 3rd year of the 6th week, Jacob and all his sons went and dwelt in the house of Abraham near Isaac his father and Rebekah his mother. So Jacob and all 12 sons now go. First time we talked about this, it was just Levi and Judah that went. Now it's all 12. 22. And these were the names of the sons of Jacob, and it goes through all the names of the sons that, okay. And isn't it interesting that Genesis does not have the setting that they're going to the house of Abraham to see Isaac and Rebekah? It's interesting how things get let out of the story. And in fact, in Jubilees goes on and says, and Dinah, the daughter of Leah, the only daughter of Jacob. Dinah goes with them. That's missing from Genesis. Verse 23, and they came and bowed themselves to Isaac and Rebekah. And when they saw them, they blessed Jacob and all his sons, and Isaac rejoiced exceedingly, for he saw the sons of Jacob, his younger son, and blessed them. Stop for a moment. Realize this is not in Genesis, and this is all the family coming and bowing down to Isaac and Rebekah. This could have been part of the original story. I mean, we have a dream. In Genesis, we have Joseph having a dream that says, everyone's going to come and bow down to me. But in Joseph has this dream, okay, his mother was dead. Joseph's mother was dead. But here, he's bowing down to Isaac and Rebekah. Everybody is. I just want to point this out. It's just comparing what's in one book and what's not in the other book and vice versa. Okay, now we get to Jubilees chapter 34, which is about Jacob and his sons killing the Ammorite Kings. And I want you to notice that Jubilees continues to call Jacob, Jacob. It doesn't call him Israel. It doesn't show that his appellation, Larry, John, Tom, Dick, or Harry, got changed. And that's why, we just read in English and we have to, we deal with what it says, but some things you can realize don't make sense, and you can notice things like this and go, wait a minute. Maybe the fact that Jacob became Israel meant he became a part of who Israel really is. Just a theory. Okay. Now, this whole story in Jubilees chapter 34 is missing from Genesis, and it is proof that Jubilees actually becomes valid scripture. Okay. And I will leave you, in our playlist, if you'll go to the playlist for the book series that we're doing on YouTube, for the Book of Jubilees, I've got links in there to videos for the testing and proving out of Jubilees as scripture. And there's two videos in there from the God Culture who did all the proofing for this. I'm going to show a little bit at the end, but they've done videos on this. And if you will follow their videos along, you will see that Jubilees is scripture, and it is the Yashar that is mentioned in scripture. It is Jubilees. Okay, verse 1. And in the 6th year of this week of this 44th Jubilee, Jacob sent his sons to pasture their sheep, and his servants with him to the pastures of Shechem. And the 7 kings of the Amorites assembled themselves together against them to slay them, hiding themselves under the trees, and to take their cattle as prey. And Jacob and Levi and Yehudah and Joseph were in the house with Isaac their father, for his spirit was sorrowful, and they could not leave him. And Benjamin was the youngest, and for this reason remained with his father. 4. And there came the kings of Taphu, and the kings of Aresa, and the kings of Saragan, and the kings of Silo, and the kings of Gaas, and the king of Betharon, and the king of Manaskir, and all those who dwell in the mountains, and all those who dwell in the woods of the land of Canaan. Okay. 5. And they announced this to Jacob, saying, Behold, the kings of the Ammorites have surrounded your sons and plundered their herds. 6. And he rose from his house, he and his 3 sons, and all the servants of his father, and his own servants, and he went against them with 6,000 men who carry swords. And he slew them in the pastures of Shechem, and pursued those who fled, and he slew them with the edge of the sword, and he slew Aresa, and Taphu, and Saragan, and Silo, and Ammanaskir, and Gaas, and he recovered his herds, and he prevailed over them, and imposed tribute on them, that they should pay him tribute, 5 fruits, products of their land, and he built Robel and Tamaretes. And he returned in Shalom, and made Shalom with them, and they became his servants until the day that he and his sons went down into Egypt. So the Amorites here are put under tribute, and they become servants. And it was a big battle, and this is in the pastures of Shechem, outside where Dinah was abducted. Now, Joshua, much later in time, fights 5 Ammorite kings. Okay, Jacob is the first to fight 7, and later in the book of Joshua, chapter 10, Joshua is fighting 5. And verse 13 says, and refers to prior in history with the phrase, people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. And if you compare this chapter with what happened here in Jubilees, it's the same enemies, the same war, and the same outcome. And then Joshua verse 13 says, is this not written in the book of Jasher, that they had avenged themselves upon their enemies? Well, Jubilees turns out to be the one that has the story of that, and the ancient Jasher, which means the book of the righteous, it corresponds to the upright in El, which is Yasharel, which records the Amorite war prior in history. Okay. And this was written by Joshua, who would have known about the book of Jubilees from Moses. He would have known that history. So 2 Samuel also has the fact that 2 Samuel chapter 1, it says, and David lamented with this lamentation over Saul and Jonathan and his son. And he also bade them teach the children of Judah the use of the bow. Behold, it is written in the book of Jasher, which is really Jubilees. You see, in the book of Jubilees, it is apparent, it's going to become apparent to you as we keep going, that Jacob is a master of the bow. Okay. So I've got a link here to the God Culture testing video that talks about Jasher and Jubilees and compares them. And we are back to the end of this video, and I added to our pattern that we're tracking through the story in the book of Jubilees, and Jacob returns home safely. He pays his vow and becomes a part of Yasharel and starts the great 8th day. And that is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to the discussion on Monday night. And if you would like to study with us, please look at the description. We have a 2-week free trial where you can come into our community and learn a little bit about us and meet us. And we have a online academy. If you're interested in learning the ancient language, you can take classes online and learn how to do word studies and start to dig into scripture and look at the translations and get to the deeper meaning underneath the English text. So I thank you for your time. Please like the video and comment. It really does help it to be promoted if you will do that. And you have a wonderful day. Shalom.